Hello and welcome to this special bonus episode of The Dairy Edge. Teagasc are running a weekly Let's Talk Dairy webinar series, which is also being made available as a podcast. On this week's webinar, dairy farmer Brendan Ryan and me, Emma-Louise Coffey, joined Stuart Childs to discuss Brendan's agricultural education and mentoring he received on farm and how it has influenced his dairy farming career.
Today, we're going to do a little bit, I suppose, in terms of promotion of the professional dairy farmers, dairy farm management diploma that Emma-Louise is looking after. And we've also brought on Brendan Ryan, who's a former graduate of that course, to talk about his experience of it. But I would say that Brendan has probably some interesting information to share with people as a whole, whether they take on to doing the course or not, or whether you're farming a long number of years, just in terms of the network of people that he's put around him, in terms of making the decisions that he's made, progressing to being a dairy farmer himself now again. And I let him talk through his own career, obviously, in a minute. But first, we're going to just share a screen here of some slides. And Emma-Louise is going to talk through the background of the course. And then, as I said, we'll get stuck into Brendan then in terms of what he's doing now and how he's gotten to this point. So I'll hand over to you, Emma-Louise, and thanks for joining me this morning.
Thanks, Stuart. Today we have the opportunity to discuss the Level 7 Professional Diploma in Dairy Farm Management. And essentially it is the Dairy Farm Management course that Teagasc deliver. And I suppose firstly, if we get into some of the course information, briefly, this is the gold standard in training for anyone who is interested in pursuing a career in dairy farm management in Ireland. And I guess for any of the more seasoned listeners today, people who have logged on, it is the equivalent of the old Farm Apprenticeship Board or the old FAB that ran for many years in Ireland. I suppose there is an entry requirement for this programme, and that is the Level 6 Advanced Certificate in Agriculture or an equivalent. And I guess the Level 6 can be obtained in any of the 6 ag colleges in Ireland, and those are Kildalton, Ballyhaise, Clonakilty, Mountbellew, Gertine and Pallaskenry. And when we say that Level 6 or equivalent, each year we do have 1 or 2 applicants who have completed a Level 7 or Level 8 in one of the ITs or universities in Ireland. And if we think about the course, it's really pushing people forward into farm management and farm business ownership. And that could be somebody who intends on returning home to a dairy farm in the long or short term, but also then people who are looking, maybe from a non-farming background and looking to take up a role as a farm manager or farm business owner in the form of a leased farm, some form of a partnership or share farming arrangements. And I guess, when we think about the outcome, looking to graduates like Brendan, who, you'd often meet at open days or farm events, they talk about the huge job satisfaction that they have. There's autonomy and responsibility within roles as managers or business owners. And also financially, it can be really rewarding for people, who are working on dairy farms. I suppose specifically then to the course, it is a 2-year course where students are working on farm full time, and they would work with registered host farmers in Ireland. As you are working full time, you are entitled to annual leave. So there are 20 days paid annual leave dotted, throughout the year. And then there are also 20 college days. And I suppose, in terms of the certification and awarding of this course, Teagasc is linked to UCD, and UCD are the awarding body of the degree. So looking then, I suppose specifically, you are on placement full time. So if we look at the course format, and we'll move on to the next slide, Stuart, thank you. I suppose there are 2 options, and primarily, people will go for option 1. So we'll focus on that to start with. But in year 1, students will start on their placement farm in the month of September, and they will be working there right through until August, at which time then they're placed on a second farm. And again, they will start on farm in September and they will work on that farm through to August. I suppose, a typical roster that students tend to work. If you asked me 3 years ago, I would say 90% plus of students would have worked an 11-3 roster. So that's 11 days on and 3 days off. So every second weekend you'd have, I suppose, an extended break period. In recent years, that is shifting towards 5-2, so 5 days on, 2 days off. And that's not necessarily, every Saturday and Sunday. It might be that your 2 days off are a Sunday, Monday, or something like that. But it is, that I suppose rosters are changing on dairy farms to that type of thing. And, I mentioned it is paid. So students will get paid for every hour they work. And the minimum requirement we set is that host farmers would pay students at least minimum wage. And we would see a lot of contracts that come back to us between the host and students. They are getting that 11-12 euro an hour. So that's the sort of pay that you're looking at. I suppose just in terms of where our host farmers are located, we have a map here and we can see that we have host farmers dotted throughout the country. So for anyone who is interested in applying, it does give you the opportunity to travel away from home, maybe to a different county, to live away from home and gain some independence. But at the same time, it's important to point out a lot of people do like to stay within 30 minutes of home for placement, and that can also be facilitated depending on I suppose the requirements of the student. There is an opportunity to travel abroad as part of this placement, and this comes under, say, your option 2. So for somebody who would like to travel abroad, there is a defined 6-month period within the course time that students take that opportunity. So you would start as standard on farm in September, and you would finish slightly earlier in the month of June, at which time you would travel abroad. So that 6-month period falls from July until December. And then you will return to Ireland and start your second Irish placement at the later stage of January. And then again, as standard, you would finish in August time. In terms of where people would travel overseas, New Zealand is incredibly popular. A lot of people would take the opportunity to travel there. And that, with that, you get an opportunity to do your additional calving and breeding season, at, I suppose, the other end of the world. But also people have traveled to Scotland, Germany, Missouri in the US and Australia in recent times. I guess then if we think about it, there is an education element. So we have course days. And if we move on and we look at, I suppose, what's included in that, there are 20 college days on average each year. And I suppose the main aim is to build and grow capabilities. If we think about somebody who has completed the level 6, they have completed a lot of lectures, practicals, and on-farm placement. So there's a huge base in terms of technical knowledge and skills. So what we're really looking to do is build upon those and strengthen them and implement that knowledge on farms day to day. I suppose outside of that, we would place a large emphasis on things like financials. So to really understand how your management decisions impact on the bottom line, and are there small tweaks that you can make to increase profit. We would also place an emphasis on people. And I think, regardless of whether you're managing 50 cows or 200 cows, there are a huge amount of people involved in businesses. And, it can be a relief milker, a full-time staff member, but it's also then the people that you're engaging with, maybe on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, like the lorry driver who collects your milk, your feed merchant, your advisor, your accountant, your vet. These are all really, really important people to your business. And are you working and communicating with them effectively to, for the good of the business? And then finally, I suppose the final key point and focus area is sustainability. And it's a buzzword that, we're possibly all sick of hearing about, but really, the spotlight is on agriculture in terms of sustainability, and particularly dairy. So do we fully understand all of the practices that we need to engage with in order to to make sure that we are farming to the best of our ability from that perspective. And I suppose because it is a dairy management course, we're also looking at management capabilities that that we need and that we have in order to in order to make sure that we are managing most effectively. So they're the types of things that we'll focus on in course days, and looking at the delivery. Then the people who are providing this content would be Teagasc researchers, specialists, some of the lecturers from the ag colleges, and advisors. So it's a huge team effort within Teagasc, and there's a huge amount of people involved. And we also see sometimes we do engage with external people like the banks, ICBF, different industry partners like that. And there are some similarities between I suppose how you'd learn in the level 6, and here we do have lectures and practicals, but we also get out and there's a strong focus on course days spent in a discussion group format. And then finally, I suppose the location of the course days is typically Teagasc Moore Park and Kildalton College, and we'd also engage with the other ag colleges from time to time. So I guess that's a whistle-stop tour of what the course entails. So we might talk to you, Brendan, and just get some information. You might start by telling us, how you developed an interest in pursuing a career in dairy farming.
Yeah, so thanks, Emma-Louise. So I've been farming at home with my parents from an early age, trained to milk cows since maybe 13, 14 years old. Did my leaving cert in 2013, and whereby then went to study level 5 in Teagasc. Then did the level 6 in Teagasc. Went to placement in New Zealand. I gave 4 months in the North Island on a 600 cow farm, and then 2 months in the South Island on a 2,300 cow farm. Both big time opened up my eyes in terms of time management, people management, and the scale of farming, obviously, which I didn't really see in here in Ireland. I then went on to do the professional diploma in dairy farm management. So I started with Eddie and Dennis O'Donnell in Golden on the first year. I suppose the main tasks would be milking cows, doing your grass walks, drafting cows for AI, bit of tractor work and machinery work like spreading fertilizer, a bit of slurry. I suppose going through assessing opportunities, discussing goals. Went on then to Coleman Dealey in Newcastle West, my second year placement. Coleman then I had the run of the farm for Coleman. Furthered my skills in grass management. Did the AI course. I suppose marked out the cows that I AI'd then and was able to go back the 3 weeks afterwards, looked at what I AI'd, was able to compare, and was very happy with that, and gave me confidence then going forward for doing DIY AI at home then in the future. I suppose the best thing about the course, like for them 2 years, is like you're working with the best farmers. They're trying to get you to where you want to be, discussing your goals. Like, I mean, with Eddie over, assessing opportunities is the big thing. Obviously, Eddie is on multiple farms, and going putting into practice what I had learned on them farms, I was able to improve profitability at home, and then being able to assess opportunities. I've now taken on a new farm, a second unit, so I'm now milking on a second unit myself. So I suppose after the 2 years with the diploma course, I managed a farm for Martin Stapleton in Nula for 2 years. Martin wasn't full-time on the farm, but was beside me if I had any problems or whatever. So that was a great dip into management. It was a 200 cow farm and it was very well set up. And also it was in the drought as well, which was a massive learning curve, which was tough year. So after that then I moved to Teagasc, the Ag College in Teagasc, and took on the management role there I was there for 20 months. I had intended on being there for a couple of years. I always had a plan to come home farming, but it wasn't actually, I hadn't planned really to come home for a couple of years. The opportunity came up a bit early, but I mean, the plan was already made, so I was able to adapt to that, and I couldn't turn down the good opportunity. I suppose all the way up through, I suppose I was starting smaller, and every year then I was obviously learning more grass, financials, and then dipped into people management then on Martin Stapleton's farm, managing a full-time relief milker, where I was able to put that into perspective then in Teagasc, with obviously dealing with it was at a bigger scale, and obviously with more people.
More staff, yeah. Brendan, do you mind if I take you back, right? So like there's a lot of people now doing their level 5 or their level 6 at the moment. And I suppose what I'd like to ask you is, obviously from what you said, the trip to New Zealand was something that was kind of a seminal moment, we'll say, for you in one sense as well, in terms of going on further. But there are people now that are finishing maybe level 5s and or they're finishing level 6s, we'll say. They'll have to have level 6 done to go to Emma-Louise next. Like why not? Why go do this, we'll say, in your opinion, we'll say, rather than just going, like there's probably people there that could get jobs on farms straight away if they want to. But what's your thinking in terms of, like, from my perspective, from Emma-Louise's perspective, we're going to say, yeah, this is a good thing to do. Even if you're going home farming your own farm, you should go and do this. It's going to open your eyes. But from your perspective, like, why did you make that decision? You were one of the earlier candidates, I suppose, to actually go into that program that time. You'd have been in the very first few years of it, like. So what was the deciding factor for you that I need to do this if I want to go where I want to go, kind of?
Well, it was first of all, it was my love for farming, but it was also I wanted to further my education. But also, like, with the level 5 and level 6 in Teagasc, it's a great starting placements on farms. Like you're implementing your obviously your grass, and then when you go to the diploma course, the step up, you're doing it on a farm basis level, and you're seeing that you're working with farmers that are going to allow you to make your own mistakes, and I suppose then learn from your mistakes. In terms of the theory side and all that was covered in Teagasc, in that you're on farm for these 2 years, and it's a lot easier to learn, I suppose.
Would you have found the way you said it there now, the step up, is it like going from first division into Premier League? Like, did you notice that there was a big change?
Oh, there was a big change, but like obviously with Eddie there, the first year placement, we would have went through like what level of, I suppose, was I able to take on, I suppose, responsibility in that, and what had I done before in terms of grassland? What did I need to learn on the key areas? And from there, then we worked on. And then obviously throughout the year, then whatever, got better at, well, I hope Everton, got better at Everton. But then went to Coleman's farm then the second year and furthered it again. Like, so you're just getting better the whole time, and it's happening on farm, and you're making informed decisions on farm, I suppose. Do you know what I mean?
Obviously, Eddie's a former Grassland Farmer of the Year competition winner. Like, so from what you're saying there, so is you sat down, you said, right, these are my capabilities, and he said, right, you do this, and this. And if you had an issue, you went back to him and you said, I'm not sure if I've done this right. And he looked over it, or he gave you his insight into what decision he'd make, kind of, and that helped you, I suppose, hone your own skills then, in particular, I suppose, in relation to the grassland management, but just the general things. You were brought up bit by bit. You weren't just throwing a hospital pass and the tackle was coming for you, and that was it. Like,
oh God, no. Like, so the main responsibility I had was on the second out farm, milking, like grass measuring there, drafting cows for AI, all the day-to-day running on that farm. So like I was over there, and I go and meet Eddie then. We go through everything, what's working, what's not working. Oh, I dropped the cover too low this week. Put it too high this week. I have too much grass, I have too little. What did I make a mistake? What should I do the next time to so that doesn't happen again? And from there on, then like, you know, just it falls into place. Then you get to know the farm then, and you also get to know how to make better management decisions.
Okay, very good. And then we'll say moving on. Obviously, as you said, you did the AI course at Coleman's. Then you went to Martin. Then after that, so obviously Martin was involved with the IFA, and as you said, wasn't around a lot, but would still have a very good knowledge of what needed to be done on the farm. But was that another big step in terms of that you had a lot of control there, and as you said, you were managing the relief milker situation, and maybe ringing for the feed and ringing for fertilizer, maybe potentially as well, I presume. But
yeah,
was that something that you liked actually, like to get that extra control, we'll say?
Yeah, I suppose I got the extra. I suppose moving from Coleman's, I had excellent responsibility there at Coleman's, the running of the farm, 120 cows, and then moving to Martin's, and then it was another step up. It was a busier, I suppose. It was myself and then the relief milk or whatever, but it was, I suppose, Martin wasn't there as much, I suppose, and it was a dip into management, I suppose, more up again. It was another move up again, like, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then I suppose it was a big move with the parlour taking place and everything in Pallaskenry as well. Were you involved in that, or was there?
Yeah. So when I moved into Pallaskenry in at the autumn of the year, we just undergoing big expansion. So it would have been that year would have milked 260 cows, and the following spring would have calved down 415 actually, and so the start of the new cubicle shed was the month that I started, 250 cubicles, and then obviously the year after we had planned earlier to start the new rotary milk parlour, but COVID got in the way, so that was delayed a bit. But yeah, we got that up and running then, and I was able to enjoy that for a few months before I left.
So that would have been, I suppose, with the delay with the parlour, obviously there was kind of a good bit of communication and kind of handling the lads that were milking as well as milking yourself, because obviously you were under a bit of pressure in terms of the scale of, or the numbers that had to go through the original parlour that was there. Yeah, so it was a 12-a-side double up parlour, so there was a lot of rows going through it. I suppose the plan there, myself and Derek would have sat down, like the plan going forward was kind of 3 full-time labour units, myself and two lads, and but like we had to adapt to the numerous rows in the milk parlour. So someone start the cows in the morning, bring in the cows, start them, and then at like 7 o'clock then, and another relief milker will come in and finish the cows, to divide it up, because it was a long milking, like you were talking nearly 5 hours round in the morning and maybe 4 in the evening. So there was a full labour unit going to milking cows, if you like, 8-9 hours a day, like so it was just hard. It was hard to manage, I suppose. We divided cows into different groups and so they weren't going to be standing on yards all day, and it was just, it was difficult, but it was enjoyable challenge. It was a great challenge. And then afterwards, then to see like that, the solids that were produced for 50 solids, and through that year with a young herd of 40% heifers, and also then like to go back and see that it was 9% empty in 12 weeks, like the figures all added up, like it was enjoyable, like, you know, it was a challenge, but it was a very, very rewarding job, like, you know. Yeah. So then I suppose just to bring you on then to the last piece, or to the current piece, we'll say, as you said, you kind of left Pallaskenry earlier than you'd planned. You probably had a kind of a 5-year plan of staying there maybe before you take on another opportunity. But like all of these things, when opportunity knocks, you have to answer the call, basically. So just explain what's the situation with you on the home farm and the lease farm now, and what's the plan with that?
Yeah, so put a new an 18-unit milking parlour on the new farm. It's so it's 40 hectares of a lease farm, 31 and a half in the one block, and the remainder just slightly over the road. Plan this year is to milk 80 cows over there and reseed 3/4 of the block, and milk 120 cows at home. So 80 and 120 is the split this year. And then next year then would be to, while I have it all, hopefully I'll reseed it by next summer, to milk 120 cows over and have 120 at home. That'll be the plan going forward. But I suppose going back to the placements and to where I am now, I suppose I would have always seen home as, before quota, home was 50 cow farm, dairy farm, keeping all the calves, all the cattle to beef, finishing. And I would have always, before I started in Pallaskenry or in the course, the diploma course, I would have always seen as 50 cow to farm. And it's only then when I started implementing all the like the grass managing, breeding, adapting new technologies, that we moved to 70 cows. And the year then we moved to 70 cows with grass measuring, it was 50 kilos of milk solids in the 2 years. Like it was, and about 150 kilos of meal less fed as well. It was worth 18,000 euros to the farm, like a 70 cow farm. So it was, by then we were able to, I suppose, sit down, assess where we were going forward, made the plan then that I was going to return home farming, but it was going to be for a few years. So I was going down the managing route. So obviously, yes, I moved down the managing route for a couple of years, and this opportunity came up a bit earlier than intended. But I mean, the plan was always there to come home farming. So just that's another point on I suppose what I gained from the course.
And like you've covered a lot of what's on the screen there now, in terms of, we'll say, Eddie and Coleman as mentors, even Derek as a mentor to you now as well, and Martin obviously wouldn't be a million miles away from me at home either, so I'm sure Martin is good for advice as he always was. Like we'll say, moving down to the end of that slide there, the work-life balance piece now. So like when you're in the management role, you were responsible for making sure that people were kind of kept happy and so forth. Would you comment on that? And then also from your own perspective now, running your own operation, the fact that you have 2 milking parlours running, what kind of challenges is that going to throw up for you in terms of staffing it and making sure that everyone is happy, in terms of, like, we're not all trying to achieve Brendan's goal here, basically milking 240 cows and Brendan is cruising around and everyone else is doing the work in this scenario, like.
Oh no, there'll be no fear of that, I know.
I know that.
But I know, I suppose, yeah, back to, I suppose, in the management role, you're making sure, yeah, that everyone is happy. It's like, obviously, it's going back to having team meetings. We used to, in Pallaskenry, we had a team meeting every morning. I suppose just a quick jot through 15 minutes. What happened yesterday? What's the plan for today? Everyone happy? What can we change? Why will you change it? Do you know, we work together good as a team. Obviously, now that I'm home and it's me and Dad full time, I suppose with setting up the new farm, it is busy now because there's a lot of, I suppose, field work, a lot of jobs, I suppose, that wouldn't happen yearly on a normal farm that would be set up. So I suppose this year, I won't have as much paid labour coming into the farm because I'm putting a lot more money into the farm in terms of reseeding and infrastructure and water and to get things going. But I'd be hoping like that when breeding finishes and that, now that I'd have relief milking for 3 evenings a week and maybe take a weekend a month off. But and the same with Dad. But going forward, I suppose, yeah, Dad is young, like 56 years of age. He's no intention of stepping back at the moment. He's happy out. And I suppose going forward, there will be a full-time person, I suppose, with me and labour, relief milking. But I suppose the work-life balance you're saying, like, in terms of using your time wisely, like, I always see, like, if you haven't time to walk to farm, or to pick your bulls, or to do I suppose the main things on the farm, your financials will fall down. So if you don't have time to walk the farm, if you go off spreading fertilizer or spreading slurry instead of walking the grass and the cows are not in the right grass, like what you would have actually gained from walking your farm, the management decisions, would have paid a contractor to spread your fertilizer and slurry, and you'd actually have finished earlier in the evening, like. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on farms that you'd see parents won't allow, like, sons or daughters milk until 6 o'clock in the evening, like, and then a problem comes on then at the end of milking, you have to call a vet to a cow, and next minute you're still in the yard then at 8:15 at night. You should get back up again then at 6 o'clock in the morning and you reach burnout. And like, when you reach burnout, then you're no good to no one either, because you won't go and walk the farm, or you won't make informed decisions, and I mean the farm will fall around you.
And would it, now you mentioned that the New Zealand placement opened your eyes in terms of time management as well, but obviously Eddie'd be good at time management as well. I wouldn't know Coleman as well, but would you have learned a lot of those skills or honed those skills as well on your placements here, or was it the New Zealand influence that has really driven you to be a better time manager?
Well, I suppose in New Zealand, with the bigger numbers and smaller amount of labour, it was all contracted out. Like, so that was the first of it that I seen. Like, whoa, this fella, like, he's getting someone in to do everything. How is this paying? Like, that was my perception of it when I went over there, because obviously I hadn't worked on farms at that level. And kind of saying we all along up until now, like we would have spread all our slurry ourselves and all the fertilizer and whatever. But like, that's obviously changed now with the opening cow numbers. But yeah, like, you just see like that when the basics are done right, and your time is managed, and you're finishing on time and evens, things run a lot smoother, and you're happier, and everyone that's working in there the farmer's in a better place as well. You're not crisis management.
Yeah,
you're not fire brigading. Like, it's just, you have time to make decisions. And I know, you've come into really busy times, the spring and that, but I mean, that's over us now. Like, I know I'm coming into breeding, but I mean, you need to be able to step back, take a breather, and actually, where is the farm going? Like, what happened this week that maybe shouldn't have happened, or how can I improve that for next week? But if you're constantly running from job to job and running from here to there to do these things, and you're not thinking, it's not going to work. Like,
yeah, okay. And just even the communications piece there, like you're saying about the contractors coming in and so forth, like, what would you have learned in terms of communicating with them? Like, it's not ringing them to tell them the tank is full and you need to suck it out.
It's having the farm, like, there was a big learning thing in Teagasc now, with a major use of contractors. Have your farm mapped out well, and have your plan made and wrote down for the week. Obviously, you have to adapt to changes and things pop up in the middle of the week, but I used to know like that every Thursday I was given the map to the contractor for following the cows for fertilizer. He'd get it over the weekend.
Yeah.
And then I'd talk to him then after the weekend and which paddocks he'd done. Do you know, like, I'd colour him in on the map where the cows had grazed pretty much from the Thursday previous.
Yeah.
Then just to make sure that it was done, which was always done. It was an excellent, provided an excellent service. You go then to next Thursday, you do the same again. Pretty much that maybe once a month or once every 3 weeks, you're collecting your tank is going to be full, but we were following the cows anyway, maybe on a weekly or every 10 days basis anyway. So things get very repetitive when you have a plan in place, and
yes.
when you actually write it down. It's going to nearly a daily job in terms of like Thursdays, okay, fertilizer, meet the lads in the morning, go through whatever has to be done. You're maybe saying Fridays fencing day, Mondays for this, Tuesdays for this. Do you know, it just gets, and everyone gets into a routine then, and things work very well. Like.
Okay, very good. And just the structure of it, we'll say from your own perspective there now, again, taking your home farm situation. Now, you're in the position where your dad is at home with you there. So obviously you sit down for breakfast and you talk about that as well. I suppose what I'm trying to pick out from you here, Brendan, is actually just for people that aren't doing the course but are running their own farm or whatever, you know, like from what you're saying there, you're advocating that you come in for your breakfast, take the 15 or 20 minutes after you've had the breakfast maybe, and get out the notebook or get out the diary and write down the few bits and pieces that need to be organised, the calls that need to be made. Put a structure on your day, and that's going to make your day an awful lot more productive. Am I right in thinking that?
Definitely, and put a time scale on it as well. Because if you just write down what you're going to get done today, and there's no time scale on it, you can actually get hung up in one job then, and you don't get one that's actually more urgent done, and it's going to tomorrow, and you go home then in the evening. You're like you're kicking yourself in because there's one job that was very important that didn't done. So I mean, allocate what is urgent and important as well, that has to be done. And I suppose, you just kind of work from there. And then obviously get help if you need help.
Okay.
So don't try and be the king, like, and do everything yourself.
And just maybe even on that then, Brendan, I suppose, what kind of a network of people, we'll say, what way are you trying to recruit people? Or we'll say, obviously at your age now, you have a bunch of friends maybe that might be willing or able to do milking here and there and so forth. But I think it's probably the challenge that we see most is probably people saying they can't get people. There's two sides to that, I suppose. There's that side that we've just discussed in terms of people don't sit down and think about it properly. So people going away for the Maybank holiday weekend looking for a milker on the Wednesday before the weekend, kind of, instead of maybe looking for him now or something like that.
Oh yeah, of course. But like back to what you were saying, looking for staff, I suppose if you're just looking for someone for a Sunday evening milking, like, it's not going to work, I don't think. Like, so someone is not just going to give all his Sunday evenings to you because you're giving him one milk. Like, it's not going to work. So the best way to approach that is obviously hire a relief milker, be flexible with it, and say, look, I have 4 milkings a week for you there. I need you to do X and X, and you can pick the other 2 days yourself, whatever suits you. And that seems to work very well. Like,
yeah,
and in any of the last places that I've worked in, like, and they feel more value then. They don't feel that, oh, he's just going to get me now for the Sunday evening now, and sure, he's gone off now on the Sunday evening, sure, I have to wait around now and milk his cows, and it's not worth my while, you know. So
yeah,
at least he knows.
The other thing that it's doing then is also it's creating time for the farm owner or the farm manager to actually do a bit of thinking about the farm, rather than actually being stuck in the milking piece, like, which is a very, very important piece. But at the same time, you need to be able to rise up above it and look down from above and see what's happening. Yeah,
and even just if it gives it a chance to revive, go off and watch a match or go off and do something out of it, a hobby that you like. So there's just not all farming the whole way through. Like, you will get burnt out. Like.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so just I'll encourage people to throw in a few questions there for Brendan if you have them. There's one came in, Emma-Louise, I suppose. I suppose we would have anticipated it. What scrutiny is done on the host farmer to make sure that the student isn't a slave to the farm?
Yeah, so I guess in relation to our particular hosts, we would have a fairly strong technical criteria as to the type of farm that hosts our students. So I suppose the first thing is students are placed on a farm that is deemed a safe place to work, and then we would have technical criteria. I suppose outside of that, at the outset, the likes of Brendan would have signed a contract outlining their hours and their days on and off to work. By legislation, they can only work 48 hours a week. And there is a total mix in terms of the jobs that they are asked to do and they are required to do on farm. But the I suppose days on and off and hours worked, I suppose takes that element away in terms of we don't see them as slaves. But I suppose there is communication regularly with, say, myself and the team at Teagasc, and there are farm visits where we identify if there are issues. I suppose it is not acceptable for students or any staff member on a farm to be worked as, I suppose, a slave, as is mentioned in the question. But if that is occurring, it's not acceptable, and students are removed off of farms.
Okay, very good. And just, I suppose, just to highlight that on that last slide there, Emma-Louise, in terms of the closing date for this year's applications is the 20th of May. And if anyone is looking for any information, they can either email you at emma-louise.coffey@teagasc.ie or ring you on 025 42706. And there's also information on the Teagasc Education webpage. So, Brendan, very enlightening to talk to you for a young man. As I said to you at the very start there, I remember meeting you back in maybe 2013 or 2014, and I knew there was a little bit of something about you in terms of there was an energy and a buzz about you. And I met you actually as part of your diploma course. I actually did a lecture with you as well that time, and I remember you asking lots of questions at that as well. So there was always the X factor in you, I suppose, which was great to see. But inspiring kind of conversation with you there now, and I'm not bluffing you there in that sense. Now, I just think that it's really enlightening to hear what you said there. putting into practice a lot of the stuff that we've spoken about on with Nully Heffernan maybe and other people like that in relation to the people management side of things. And it's as I said last night, like on a tweet that I put out, like there's something for everybody to listen to in today's conversation, because whether you do the diploma or whether you don't, that piece of managing people is so important in terms of trying to make your farm a better place to work, and for yourself and for the people that are coming into it. And just some of the stuff that you said there in terms of trying to take a few minutes out even every day to just plan the day would be so beneficial to people, to actually having more effective and more productive days as well. So I think it was very interesting piece, and I'm very grateful to you for coming on and talking to us. Emma-Louise, you raised your hand there, or you just want to come in again?
Yeah, no, and just to echo what you're saying, Stuart, we're giving you a really big head now, Brendan, but just a really excellent example of somebody who has spent 4 years with Teagasc and really taken advantage of the time, and I think it's echoed simply in the fact that he built a lot of practical and technical knowledge with his time in Pallaskenry, and then day to day he implemented that on farm during his 2 placements in the farm management course. And look, Brendan is one of, there's over 140 graduates at this stage. So, there are a lot of Brendans out there. That practical and knowledge, he brought that home, and over 2 years, it was €18,000 of additional profit to the business, which is no small sum of money. And I think then the learnings Brendan has taken from all of the people, the farmers that he's worked with along the way, in terms of working with people, but also the line of communication and, the word mentor, it can't be underestimated. If Brendan's in a hole, like he mentioned, the drought, I'm sure he was able to fall back on Coleman and the O'Donnells in that situation to see what were they doing. And also finally then his adaptability. So, he had a long-term plan that he was planning on going home. A really good opportunity came up less than a mile down the road. So, they adapted the plan and made it work for them. So there's a lot to take out of what Brendan is doing. I suppose on a final note, from our perspective in Teagasc, the courses that are provided are excellent. Like the teaching staff in Teagasc are really good, and we can see that education is linked to greater efficiency on farm, that work-life balance Brendan talks about, and also additional profit. So it's very much worthwhile to take out those couple of years, and in the long term it can be hugely beneficial.
Yeah, so I suppose the risk is that people think they do the level 5 and the level 6 and they qualify obviously from the point of view of stamp duty exemptions, etc. But they actually take that next step and do those 2 years, even if they were to go straight home after that, it is going to be of great benefit to them. If I'm right in assuming that, Brendan, if you'd gone straight home, even you would have still got a lot of knowledge and learning from the 2 years of the course alone. Like
I would, sure, I probably would have upskilled or whatever, but doing the course has really allowed me to, I suppose, assess opportunities, realize the full potential of the farm. You're getting lectured from the best in the country as well, George Ransbottom, Lawrence Shalhoub, all the people in Moorpark as well, return on investment, return on equity, all the figures that you can do. It takes the guesswork out of, if a farm comes up beside you, if that's what you're doing, that you can jot down all your figures. Yes, it makes sense. You go and you do it. You want to do it. It takes the guesswork out of it, I suppose. And I suppose that's how I've really got to doing what I've done today.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, Brendan, we'll be back to talk to you in a couple of years' time to see how you're getting on with the new farm when you've it all up and running, okay?
Lovely, thanks.
Thanks for coming on today, and thanks to Emma-Louise as well for organising it all with you. And we'll be back next week to talk about protein levels in diets for the spring or for the summer grazing. Wish you all well for the coming week. It looks like it's going to be a good week, so happy farming and most of all, safe farming. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you.
That's all for this week's Let's Talk Dairy webinar series. And don't forget to look out for more bonus episodes each week. I'll be back with our usual Dairy Edge interview on Monday, so do listen in then. I'm Emma-Louise Coffey, and thanks for listening.